long time ago, I watched Thoroughly Modern Millie and hated it. So I decided to watch it again to see why I hated it. TLDR, I still hate it. It has some good moments, but overall, this is actually I looked it up, and it turns out that it actually was successful. I was even worried it was not going to have been successful in '67, but it was. And it has, on paper, it has everything that should make it successful. The execution leaves much to be desired, and it is not Julie Andrews or anybody else in it that is the problem. Yeah, it's actually an insult to jalopies to call this a jalopy. Oh man! And starting with, in '67 they make a movie about the 1920s, and I'm sort of wondering, what is even the audience for this? 1920s, and the start song calls it 22, but the fashion says 27. So that's exactly 40 years earlier. What is your target audience here? The people who were in the 20s, they are now 60. When they were young in the 20s, 20, they're now 60. So you're 60 plus is your audience. For the young people, 20s may be too recent. I don't know. Apparently, it appealed to somebody.
What year was My Fair Lady?
65, I believe.
That may be a reason. Julie Andrews in the 20s, because she was supposed to be in. Well, she wasn't, but ideally that would have been her role.
Yeah, maybe. The costumes. Let's start with the costumes. The costumes. Some of the good things about this movie. There are a couple. The costumes is the 20s flapper, full flapper. So in the song they're talking about. Let's talk about the music first. The music is actually a mix of original 20s songs with some new things added, and not bad. It sort of fits together. Most of the things they added was to give it a little bit more narrative within this musical. It's not really a musical because the only one actually singing is Julie. So a couple of others, but not too much. And so that's okay. I had no issue with that. One of the songs they had from the 20s has 1922 rhyming with something else, so they keep saying it's 1922, but the fashion strongly says 27. 22, they were still doing the wider stuff, and they had the lower line on the lower waistline, but they were doing less shorter skirts, and they do the short skirts here because it's 1967, so the short skirts are actually too short. They're about
mini skirts.
They are not 60s mini skirts, but an original 1920s dress should have the waist at the hip line, basically, starting at the hip line, and the hems should be just under the knee, the bulge in the knee, just under that, and they keep being on top of it, and then when they walk they go over, but in the 20s when you walk you go over, but they keep being just on top of it and just a bit over, so they're about 1 inch off, so very close. But the cut, one of the other things they do with the waistline is make because everybody hates the low waistline because it's unflattering. Yes, because that was the point. It was supposed to be take out all this overly shaped stuff, so make it all. But in the 60s they want that a little bit back. So what they do is make instead of just the waistline like that and have the dress end here and then the skirt part starting, is make a belt part. So you get both waists, you get both waistlines, and they solve a lot of problems with that. It's not wrong, but it's not what they always did in the 20s. It's just what this movie did to solve their problem. and have the low waistline and still have it not be looking really old-fashioned. Even though you're trying to make 1920s, you don't want to look fuddy-duddy. You don't want to look like that. The other thing is that the colors are too bold. In the 60s, you had very much black and white checkerboard together, or zigzag line together, black and straight up black and white, and they do the colors, the black and white colors, black and white outfit with just one red item on it. That's very 60s, and it's less 20s. 20s would have, yes, but you take a lilac and a mauve and put them together in the same cut. You do the zigzag line, or you do the checkerboard thing, or some other geometric thing, but you take softer colors. And so the shapes are correct. What they do also is hats. They in almost everything they leave out the hats, because these cloche hats is just, it covers your head and you're sort of a ball in a sock, basically, in a fashionable sock. And they do them here because they make Julie Andrews actually has her own hair. You can see that very clearly. She has it cut because she has that similar cut to what she had in Sound of Music, which is short hair. I think Julie just has short hair, and whenever she needs to do another role that needs long hair, she puts on a wig. But her own hair is short. I've only ever seen her with short hair. So all they had to do is a little bit of styling, make a little bit of curl here, and she has the 20s look. And then you can put the cloche hat on, because she doesn't have a wig in the way, so she can do that properly. And they do, and that's nice, because you don't ever see the cloches much. So that's very nice. But then we start to go downhill from there. First scene, she does actually walks in a sort of, she does a transformation scene from a not modern girl to a modern girl, and they have her go from 1917 fashion to 1927 fashion, which is of course weird, but I understand if you want. Two other things they do right is smoking. Because in the 1960s, people did smoke a lot, and they were starting to feel that it was maybe not a good idea. But in the 20s, that's when it started. And so a modern girl, because it's called Thoroughly Modern Millie, a modern girl smokes. So she gets out, she gets cigarettes, and she gets the outfit, she gets the hair, she gets the haircut, she gets the cloche hat, she gets the cigarettes. She doesn't smoke them until later, and it doesn't work out. But that's because it's also comedic effect. The other thing she does, and that's interesting because in 1967, it's only 40 years since the 1920s, and the wardrobe mistress and the makeup lady, who may be in her 60s, they remember this time. And some of the things that we've forgotten now, and I actually saw it in something else, and because as weird things they did in the 20s, there is a moment where she actually has to be pretty, and so she pretties herself up, and so she gets out the powder compact, and you think, oh, she's going to go flip flip. No, she hikes up her skirt and she powders her knees, because they did that in those days. They powdered their knees. When the skirt would ride up a little bit with walking, you would see your knees, so you need to powder them. And the detail, that's a really good detail, because that is only known for people who actually were in the 20s and lived that time. So that was really good. And that is unfortunately where the good stuff ends. It really goes down really bad. The plots. They have. At first, I thought, okay, they've taken a cabaret, a musical from the 1920s, and just put it on screen, and then realized they were short on plot, and they added some extra plot. And I looked it up. No, this thing is written as is, with some older songs taken and used. So they wrote this plot themselves. There's a love story. Love story is fine, but it starts off with an elaborate setup plot about white slavery. I'm not kidding. The peanut gallery is going. Oh my god.
Oh dear.
White slavery, it's in the newspapers and girls are disappearing, and of course Millie comes to town to lives in a girls only apartment building run by a lady, and yeah, the ladies have been disappearing from there, and you know, I'm giving you the setup. The setup for this is so elaborate and so long. Also, it's the lady, the hotel lady is white lady, but has a Chinese hairdo and has 2 Chinese servants. And she speaks fake Chinese to them. The only good thing about this subplot is that the Chinese people are played by Orientals. They are not Chinese Orientals, but one of them is Pat Morita. Plays one of them. Don't watch this movie for him because you're gonna be really, really, really annoyed.
Oh, we do love Pat Morita.
You wouldn't. If I hadn't known it on the paper, I wouldn't have known it was him. He speaks. They make him speak stupid Chinese, and the other guy as well, and there's a third guy as well. But like they are Oriental. But like the subplot itself, because they're also the bad guys and they're the butt of the joke, and they are they need to take this movie and simply cut the entire plot out. Does that mean that the rest of the movie becomes incomprehensible? Yes, but since the movie was already incomprehensible, it doesn't really matter. Junkets. It's yikes on trikes. Really, it's offensive. It's offensive, and it comes to it's all full of cliches because there's going to be an opium den, and there's going to be Chinese fireworks, and there's going to. In '67, they should know better. I mean, really. The only that much of good in the entire plot is that in the end it is Millie who helps herself and she does not get rescued by the guys. So, yay. But she sort of accidentally stumbles into rescuing herself and not being... the guys do worse than that. They are completely knocked out very early on. So, completely useless. But... just dump it all, okay? Please. Please.
Oh,
there's a whole bunch of random things in this movie. For one, there is a Jewish wedding. And Millie is actually working as a secretary. She wants to find a husband by working as a stenograph secretary for a boss and then marry the boss.
That's very 1960s, by the way.
I'll come back to that in a second. But the Jewish wedding, there is absolutely no reason why it's in there. It seems to be in there because she is singing at it. But she doesn't have a singing gig. Her job is not singing in the movie. She just happens to be singing. And it's... I hope it's real Yiddish, but that have to have it checked. Because this movie is yikes on trikes in this regard. In authenticity. So... there is that's there. There is Carol Channing in the middle of it for no reason, and she very. I do have to say that her dress at the party was really good because it had the waistline really low, but she herself is so very 60s and not very 20s, and they would have done a little bit more work to make her more 20s. She's very herself. Which is very... it takes you out of the time. It didn't work. I like her, but she didn't work here. There's biplanes in the middle of the thing for no reason whatsoever. A reference to World War I, which was weird. I mean, World War I is not weird, but the way they referenced it was weird. There is this... completely ignores prohibition. This is set in the States, so prohibition in 1922 or 27 was definitely a thing, but it completely ignores it. There is all kinds of weird innuendo. Something they did right with the outfit when Millie changes over, and it's like in the first 10 minutes, she when she wears the dress, she realizes that her pearl necklace is not sitting quite right because she has batangas. Even Julie Andrews has some batangas, and this fashion does not like batangas. So she goes to get undergarments that push down the batangas, and then her pearl necklace sits right. And so the movie understands that, but then later, much later, when the girls are just in the boarding house, she's talking to one girl who is just keeping her talking. Basically, it's almost a throwaway scene, but it has the plot point that it stops Julie from talking to somebody else, from Millie to talking to somebody else. And this girl is talking about that her new bra is putting out her bazongas, which is completely contrary to the fashion. So that's dumb.
But it is 1960s.
But it's 1960s. She's showing off her 60s bra in a 1920, 22 or 27 movie. Either one is wrong. So that's dumb. And lots of sexual innuendo going on, which is very 60s and not in all 20s. 20s was very titillating, yes, but prudish titillating, not bazongas, That's 60s. Taking out your bazongas is 60s, not 20s. Getting caught walking out of the wrong room, that's 20s. Yeah. Yes. So that's weird. The thing I did like, and I think probably could be called 20s, is there, because of the subplot with the white slavery, blah blah blah. The one of the guys, James, played by James Fox, has to dress up as a lady, and he does. So he wears one of her black and white outfits, the one with the cloth hat, and just having him walk around, because he's a little on the tall side, but James Fox is actually quite thin, and the fashion of the short hair with the cloches on very much caters to him. So all he needs is a little makeup. Yes, he's a little bit manly, but then Julie in that same outfit is also pretty manly. It accents the jaw, and man or woman jaw is not that different as one people would like to believe they are. They are not. So she has a manly look when she wears the 20s outfit, and he, of course, is with the makeup on, but with and the clothing and the stockings and the shoes. Which he takes off really quickly because they're really, really hot. And the cloth hat on is, he's not a pretty girl, but he's definitely, he fits. So that was enjoyable to watch if you're going to just watch the first 20 minutes and then skip to the end, go watch him in the dress. That's nice. And I think that sort of concludes whatever was good about this. Let me see. Nope, that's it. Apparently it did well at the box office. It got a bunch of awards. They are all for Julie because and James, and it's not the actors. It's they are fine. But the plot needs to be. You need to completely recut this movie and cut out the entire white slavery plot because it sucked.
And the Chinese.
Yeah, that's part of the same plot. It's all part of the same plot. The entire plot needs to go with Pat Morita and everything. The peanut gallery is trying not to say something, desperately trying not to say something. Say it, dear. Open your heart and let it out.
Now, I was just wondering about, you said that the songs are Julie singing, not like there's an ensemble and everybody gets to sing.
There is one song that's sung by James. There's one song that's sung by James Fox, but I don't know if he actually sang it. They do a sort of a foxtrot kind of a new song called Tapioca something, and the other two, the couple, have a moment where they look at each other for the first time, and she sings something in her head and he sings something in his head. And I don't know if it is actually the actor singing, but that song sounds very oldie timey. So I think that's probably an original, which they had, an original from the 20s that they had and they wanted to use. And it's got light operatic. It's that light operatic sound that they had in the 20s. So I think they may have used that for that. So, but that's all the singing that other than Julie gets.
Yeah, because later on you get the Barbra Streisand musicals, and they slowly go towards Barbara sings. We accept that she is the singer, and up until the point where you've got Yentl, where basically she is the musical score. I don't know if there's many of those, but it did go towards that, and this sounds like halfway house.
Yeah, no, I think what it made it strange, and why I looked it up is usually these kind of things in '67 were first on stage, well played and well rehearsed and well, and then you get like the My Fair Ladies and that sort of thing. Goes on stage first, then becomes a movie because easy and everybody tried and true stuff. And this is not. This one is actually made for film. And that's why you don't get an ensemble cast, because there was never an ensemble cast. And you never get an ensemble song because there was never an ensemble song. So you get one-offs that are sort of fit in higgledy-piggledy. And because Julie is the best singer, she gets the most stuff. And she's still lead, of course. It's a jalopy. Another one. I get so many of these. But
would you recommend it?
No, for to look at the fashion, if you're interested in fashion, yes, but skip stuff. And for the rest, no. I'm sorry, no. Just no. And that is my opinion, as sad as it is. But, and I'm sticking to it.